And to me, it was so important to feel connected to your work. If you're going to build something, you're going to try to take something, bring something into the world. It should be something of great value. And so for me, that was being able to build something that people feel confident and comfortable putting their money in, that helps them grow the size of their pot over time. And I just don't think they've ever had anything like that.
What does it take to truly disrupt an industry? Vision, boldness, or something deeper? Welcome to Care to Lead podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Corsetti, and today we are joined by an extraordinary innovator, Arrash Yasavolian, co-founder of Taoshi. As a bold disruptor of the commerce and retail tech space, Arrash and his team are redefining how brands connect with consumers through innovative, data-driven solutions. And I am so thrilled to have you here. So welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, Cynthia.
So in your article, you talk about the importance of disruption in driving change. So how do you define disruption in the context of your work?
Well, when we look at what we're doing in the space we're in, typically in the world of fintech, especially in trading, which is really what we're concentrating on, is the world of quant trading. A lot of the sophistication is privatized. So when we look at the best trading strategies, right, in financial markets, typically they're run by hedge funds and they're closed off, right, to the majority of participants. And so really what we want to do in terms of disruption is allow as many people as possible access to these incredibly valuable and sophisticated trading strategies on par with what hedge funds are running. And so that's really what we've built.
Okay, that's awesome. So tell me more about then the size of your company, how long you've been in business, and just some brief history.
Yeah, we have over 20 employees. We are a year old, a little over a year and a half old. So pretty young, and we're moving incredibly fast. And we have major product launching this quarter.
And do you want to share more about that, or is that still secret?
No, we can absolutely talk about it. So we are launching our platform, which allows any individual within certain countries currently to access it. And what it is called Glitch Financial. And why we called it Glitch Financial is because tying into this ethos of kind of allowing people like access to what feels like a money glitch. And that's kind of where the name came from. And the goal with it, again, is to enable and allow as many people as possible to get access to sophisticated strategies that they've never been given access to before. When we look at kind of what happened with the big movement from GameStop back in a few years ago, retailers really flocked to this idea of something that would give them incredible kind of this gambling ethos, which has developed in the past few years, which is giving them some kind of opportunity to grow their wealth and kind of, fight back against what they think is like hedge funds or institutionals that they've never got access to. And this kind of carried through, right, to the world of crypto. And we've seen meme coins kind of blow up as a big way to try and gamble and make money. And gambling's really taken off over the last few years. And what we want to do is give people something that they can actually feel they can rely on for proper risk-adjusted returns, where they can put their money in and they feel confident that the size of their account will continue to grow. And so that's really what we've built, and that's what we're committed to. And that's really the ethos of what Taoshi is built on and what Glitch Financial is going to deliver.
So where were you in your career prior to being a part of this company?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my background is kind of crazy. I studied biochemistry and molecular biology, realized I didn't want to become a doctor. I got really fascinated by entrepreneurship, tried to start a startup, and it just didn't work out. Just didn't have enough experience. Not sure unsure of how to build a company. And it was fascinating. I went to various conferences and ended up meeting a mentor who told me to get some industry experience and then come back. And that's pretty much what I did for 15 years. I started in tech sales. I transferred and got more technical. I got into software engineering, became a software engineering manager at LinkedIn, joined various startups that were very successful and successfully exited and learned from really great leaders. And then went back to create my own startup. And that's kind of the journey that I went through. So a lot of different experiences in there, right? Sales, engineering. And from that, I was able to kind of develop the beginning of Taoshi.
That's exciting. So now the leadership coach in me is going to come out. when you describe yourself as a leader, and not so much the leader you are today, but the leader that you strive to be, your best possible vision of yourself as a leader, what does that look like?
I think, it's very interesting, Cynthia. I actually worked, the startup I worked at, that it was actually acquired by LinkedIn. The startup was called Glint. And Glint was an employee engagement software company, the first of its kind to do it completely via software. So software as a service. And the goal was to help people be happier and more successful at work. And by improving engagement levels, you saw that the performance was also improved of employees. That was a proven model. And so I got to see seasoned leaders carry that through inside the startup itself. So we use our own product, right? And it was pretty incredible to see, a company be very mission driven, which was trying to actually help people, and see how important engagement was to performance, which was really great. So you see all these correlated drivers, right? As well, like empowerment improves retention, purpose improves retention and engagement. So all these things are all correlated. So from my perspective, it's carrying what I experienced and what I saw from Glint. I was there for 5 years, carry over, right, into the performance of the business. And so my goal as a leader is to monitor and improve engagement, purpose, empowerment, to ensure that my employees, they're the lifeblood of the company, and ensuring that they're happy and successful at work, and they feel great about their work day in and day out. That is my goal.
That's great. Are your employees all remote? Are they in the office? They're all remote. They're all remote. And I think that engagement and what you're talking about is much easier with 20 employees as it gets when you have that's true, a few thousand. But it's still really important if you start off with that and you're setting that mold and you're modeling it on a regular basis. I think that's awesome. What about one of the other things I think that help companies be very successful is creating a culture in the company where their employees aren't afraid of taking risk. So what do you do to foster a culture of risk?
Absolutely. I think this is one of those points, right, where, it's empowerment to make decisions, and part of that is taking risks. And something that we've done is you have to align incentive with the empowerment. And so one of the really interesting things that we do at Taoshi is that we create an incentive bonus structure for employees to take that risk, so to enable them. And this is something we're rolling out for 2025. And what it does is it says, hey, if you want to go build something, you can propose it to the company, and you can then get incentivized to pursue that essentially in your free time. And beyond that, if it ends up growing, then you can just commit to doing that and leading that department or that new division, right? So that's one way. And the second one is freeing up time as well for that. So trying to dedicate more of the work week, right, to those kind of activities. So having hackathons are something that we're incorporating into 2025. Just letting we have an incredibly talented team, and it's really about empowering them to build, because they understand what we're trying to deliver. And the more ways we can creatively approach this problem to disrupt, the more valuable it will be.
That's interesting. I love that. And so I'm going to ask you a question that could feel maybe a little loaded. I'm not sure, but right now we're hearing a lot in the Bay Area, in the tech bro world. We're hearing a lot about company cultures shifting from the kind of culture that you're talking about to, less inclusiveness and less kindness, and kind of like going backwards a little bit. I'm curious if what your thoughts are on that, what's happening in some of these companies and cultures.
Yeah, I that's fascinating. I've seen both sides personally. I've been a part of multiple startups that were all highly successful, and I've seen the leadership teams on both sides of that spectrum. And as an employee, I connected much stronger with the inclusive, thoughtful leaders, right? Uh-huh. And I didn't want to work for the leaders that weren't thinking of their employees as priority. And that ended up, at the end of the day, following through to what the business was able to deliver. And the startups that were incredibly successful, that were pushing their employees and not being thoughtful about them in terms of, in any sort of way, were the ones that ended up failing. And the ones that were thoughtful were the most successful. So from just personal experience, I think that is generally a poor decision to not think of empowering your employees, thinking about their overall happiness and success. Because the employees that are incentivized properly and then also empowered properly are the ones that will end up delivering the most for business. So it's incredibly important to, one, find the most talented, get the most talented team, and then empower them appropriately. And what they need is essentially the freedom to deliver for the company once they get acclimated.
I'm sure there's a question that my listeners have right now, just after listening to you for a little while, which is Taoshi hiring right now? And if so, where can I apply?
We will have more headcount for 2025, additional engineers, product managers, as we continue to scale out. But currently we don't have any job openings. We actually just hired for the first half of 2025. So
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Who's your ideal client?
Yeah, I think the ideal client for us is someone that is looking at ways to increase their wealth, right? Are looking for a solution that is going to, that they feel confident in just allocating some funds into and letting it grow over time and not having to touch it. And I think that there's been a lot of people that have probably looked for products like this that we're delivering and have been given a gimmick, right? And what we want to do is help those individuals by giving them a real product that does work. And so those individuals that have been looking for something like this, which is a lot of people, those are really our ideal clients. And I think that word spreads quickly on something like what we're building, because finding a product that actually is able to deliver, proper risk-adjusted returns on par with the best hedge funds in the world is what we're delivering and what we're looking to deliver. And I think almost anybody, like any, day-to-day person is really what we're looking for. And that's what we want to open up to.
Is there a minimum amount that somebody has to have to invest to work with you?
Technically isn't a minimum, I don't believe, but I do think that there is a monthly cost. It's a subscription as a service. So you would probably want to start with what can cover your costs, which we'll have more information on once we launch.
That's exciting. So I know that this company is fairly new, so you don't have to answer in regard to this company, but in your leadership overall, what I've learned since coaching leaders and CEOs since 2011, one thing I have learned is that the biggest gains in someone's leadership ability and skill comes from some of their biggest failures and mistakes. So I'm curious if you could share one of your big mistakes that you learned from and what you learned.
That's a great question. I think one of the things that you learn as you get older and just have more experience is to be more patient. I think having patience and understanding how long things take to develop is a really important factor of leadership. Being patient with your team, right? It's having a schedule and understanding things need to get done, but at the same time, understanding how long things take that may come up. So I would say, I had a major project. I led a large data engineering team at LinkedIn. That was delivering a major platform for them, and estimating the amount of time to deliver a major product is quite difficult and challenging. And I learned a lot from that experience. I think a lot of the timelines sometimes were not hit when I thought they would be hit. And I think that is an incredibly important part of just project management, product management, engineering management. It falls under all of them. And appropriately discovering how much time something will take, and then and being able to communicate that back, and whether that's to your investors, whether that's, to your internal teams, whether that's to one employee. I mean, it's incredibly important to understand and decipher how much time a project or an item will take to get to market, or to whether it's a small or large one, but scoping and the process of scoping and figuring out timelines is incredibly important. So That's one where I would say you learn with just experience. It's really hard to just know, and failures, right? Like failure to appropriately discover how long something will take to develop and get to market. I think that's one that I think just comes from failures and learnings. So, ensuring that the product is going to market at the right time for your investors is going to be really important. And the growth of that product, okay, the numbers look, appropriate going forward, and your estimations is really important, right? So timelining and estimations is something that really only comes from failures, I think, a bit from experience. And that's one thing that I've learned over the last 15, 20 years.
That's great. It's great that people like you have worked behind the scenes at LinkedIn. LinkedIn for me has been by far the best platform. I think 95% of my business since 2011 has come directly from LinkedIn. LinkedIn and referrals, but LinkedIn is, I think, a fabulous platform. So
incredible place to work too. I worked at Glint, which was a startup that was in employee engagement software, carried over straight into LinkedIn. It was a fantastic work environment, very thoughtful work environment. And that shows in the way that their product was put together, I think. So directly correlated.
So you talk about technology, you emphasize the human element in your approach. So how do you ensure that innovations at Taoshi remain centered around the needs of the people? And I know you've mentioned it multiple times, but how do you just keep that at the center focus?
So are you talking about for our employees? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we send out monthly engagement surveys. So it's ranging from, various questions, just from experience from being in employee engagement software for so long, ensuring that we are able to hear the voices of all the employees and where they think where we need to improve. So these questions range from how happy are you working at Taoshi to do you feel that you have, you're engaged with your work? Do you have the resources for your job? Where do you think we can improve? What do you think we should do more of, less of? Who should get nominated? Who do you think should get nominated due to, from exemplary work? These are the questions we ask on a monthly basis to really hear from our employees on where should we improve. And you have to have a pulse on how your employees are feeling, because when you're in a startup, everyone is so critical to the mission of getting it to, and everyone has to feel a part of that mission truly for it to be very successful. So that's one way is we constantly, are listening to our employees. And then we also created a channel, and we have Slack, and we created a channel there called Open Floor, where anybody can discuss any topic. So instead of having some, backdoor kind of conversations where we make the major decisions, we actually try to have a lot of them in an open environment where people can join and listen and just get an idea of where things are. So we're really trying to create an open environment where everyone feels included and they get their voices heard. And, for us, everyone works incredibly hard and is incredibly valuable to our mission. And I want everyone that works at Taoshi, I hope, feels like very connected to what we're trying to do, because at the end of the day, we are trying to create a product that's really never existed before for the masses, right? Creating we're like a personal quant team for every person in the world. That's what we're trying to deliver. And doing something like that and requires people that are very bought in. So for me, ensuring that my team feels included, feels very connected to the mission, and ensuring that they feel empowered, they have the resources, that they're engaged. Those are the most important things to me. So, ensuring that we have hackathons and a lot of inclusivity, and, we have team trips together because we are all remote. These things are all really top of mind for me.
So you said that you send out these employee engagement surveys monthly. And I work with a lot of organizations, and if they get them yearly, it's a good, it's a win every couple of years, but they are valuable. I guess my question for you is, do you think monthly, does it water it down some? Does it still have the same effect? Are you getting, especially with a small company, they're saying the same questions, does it become remote? Is it more?
Yeah, I think, things move so fast at a startup. I think the most important things to me are the comments. The scores may be similar, but the comments are incredibly important, and that's where the most value is derived. So what are the themes? What are the things that are repeated, or the things we're not addressing, right? Have been very valuable because we've actually been able to react to that more quickly.
That was my next question. What's come out of that you've been able to pivot and change?
Yeah, some people were actually just, the right, get the right people on the bus and then put them in the right seats. One of the things that we had was we had the right people on the bus, but the work they were doing, they didn't feel connected to. And so we were able to get them to something else that was extremely valuable as well, and open that up, that existing work they were doing for something else, someone else, like a contractor, that someone else that would be able to come on board. So kind of ensuring that people feel very aligned with their work was something that we were able to get from it. Just little things also, ensuring that, we have sprint planning, and then we have retrospective, ensuring that we were getting as much value as possible out of our planning processes was another thing that came up. So really listening to our employees drives forward our processes, improves our processes as a startup, ensures that we are headed in the right direction. Everyone feels aligned on the direction. And if they don't, they should feel confident and comfortable bringing that up, especially because the surveys are anonymous. So, I'm just looking to hear from them, right, in a way that they feel comfortable doing.
I love that. That's excellent. So what's a fun fact that our listeners wouldn't know about you from your LinkedIn profile or your company profile?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I'm actually not quite sure, because my wife would say I'm pretty work oriented. So I do love to snowboard. I think that it's really fun, and it's one of the things I love to do, and also rock climbing. So those are the two things I would say, like, just from an activities perspective. I like to try to get out and do things. But my team will tell you that I'm pretty work oriented. So I think probably what you see is what you get. With me.
Cool.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time thinking about Taoshi, our work, Glitch Financial, and ensuring that I'm setting us up the best I can as CEO for success, ensuring that my managers feel empowered. That's really been top of mind for me lately, is ensuring that managers feel like they have the resources, they have the support needed to be empowered to do their work. Because if the managers are empowered, then the employees feel empowered, in my opinion. So that's really important to me. So yeah, I would say most of my concentration is on my work. I'm pretty crazy about what we're trying to do. And obviously, for me, I worked at various SaaS companies, Marketo. I worked at one called Aptus, and then I worked at Glint. And to me, it was so important to feel connected to your work. If you're going to build something, you're going to try to bring something to the world, it should be something of great value. And so for me, that was being able to build something that people feel confident and comfortable putting their money in, that helps them grow the size of their pot, right, over time. And I just don't think they've ever had anything like that. So for me, I would say I'm pretty crazy about what we do. And I would say my employees all probably say the same thing about me. And so probably not too much of a surprise, not too much surprising about me.
I think you said something, you hit on something that I just want to circle back on, because I think it's a really important lesson for our listeners. And that is, when you are right now the CEO of this company and you are 100% engaged and passionate about it, and you're the owner, oftentimes employees will say, well, it's not really my company. But what I'm hearing, and what's really remarkable that makes you a great CEO today, is the fact that when you were an employee, you were equally engaged. And you weren't engaged because it's your company or not your company. You were engaged behind the mission. And I think we lose often what it means to be engaged as an employee. It means being behind that mission. It means having the same passion in your day-to-day job as you would if you owned the company. That's true engagement. That makes going to work fun. That makes the passion, that builds it. And that creates the kind of CEO that has kind of becomes you.
Yeah, I would say that's that mix of, and I think, again, I think that was from my own personal experience, right? I worked at various SaaS companies that I didn't feel connected to. Not that they weren't fantastic companies. I just didn't feel that connected to the work. And then I ended up working for one where I felt extremely connected to the work, where I felt like it had a great mission by great leaders. And I tried to really emulate a lot of that, right? For my own business is how can I make my employees feel how I did there, right? And that was specifically at Glint. And same thing was from a mission perspective, just ensuring that everyone feels very connected to that. So absolutely. That's a job of a CEO, right? Like your job isn't to be doing the day-to-day tasks. That's not the job. The job is to ensure that everyone is on the ship and it's all going in the same direction. And by doing so, you have greater acceleration and velocity. So that's my job.
That's excellent. So let's do a quick lightning round. What's one gadget or tool you can't live without in your daily life?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know how I would be able to function without Slack. That's 100% the tool, because that's where I chat with everyone. That's where we have our calls. So 100% Slack.
Yeah, we're on Slack a lot here too. If you could live in any city in the world for a year, where would it be?
Whoa. That's a good question. I love Nice in France. Nice is wonderful. So I would say Nice.
What's a book or podcast you'd recommend to aspiring innovators?
That is a good question, man. I have to get back to you on that one. I have to think about it a little more.
Okay. What's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
Spend time with my kids.
How old are they?
3 and newborn.
So, Aww.
Yeah.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Be more patient. I mentioned that as something I've learned, and being patient and trying to understand things take time, and, be more thoughtful with scoping and timelines.
Yeah, I can, with the energy that I could tell that you have just in your DNA, would make patience a challenge for you. I can see, like, just go, do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the startup world, right?
Yeah,
so get things done and move fast. But as you start growing, you really got to think more thoughtfully about timelines.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you would like our listeners to know about Taoshi or about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's just what we're trying to deliver with Glitch Financial. I think I'll just talk about that a little bit. I think it's one of those products that is highly disruptive for its field. We really our goal really is to deliver this for the masses. Our tagline is built for the many, not the few. And we mean that. It's built for onboarding and allowing as many people as we can access to sophisticated trading strategies that they've never had access to before. And these strategies are built off of the back of the very foundationally strong strategies, off of hundreds of trading strategies that are culminated into a singular product. So the output is very valuable. So our goal is really to deliver for every listener, every person that we can, and give as much access as we can, right? So not incredibly high fees, allowing you to start with lower minimums, things like that. So really building for the people. That's what we want to do. So for me, that's incredibly important. And the book I would recommend is Entre Leadership. I think that book was pretty foundational for me. I think I read it when I was like 21 and I loved it. So
great. That's awesome. And where could people connect with you if they're, I'm sure, probably on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, absolutely. I'm very active on Twitter or X. And so both are great places to find me.
Most of my listeners already know that my signature leadership system is called Care to Lead. And it's built on the foundation of 4 pillars, which are clarity, authenticity, responsibility, and engagement. If you had to choose one of those pillars as the most critical to your success as a leader, which one would it be and why?
Authenticity. I think if you are not authentic, people will see through that. I think that's pretty obvious. And I think being authentic is also part of being very mission driven. Because if you're not actually connected to your mission, it's very hard to be authentic. And that's kind of why I said what you see is what you get, because it's also authenticity. So I would definitely say authenticity is number one.
Thank you so much, Arrash, for sharing your inspiring journey and your insights with us today. I'm sure that our listeners got so much out of hearing you. Inspiring, actually, very, very inspiring. I love it.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
And for our listeners, thank you for listening today. And remember, leaders who care to lead. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.